So just some housekeeping before we get started this morning. If you need to use the restroom, you'll find restrooms to the right and to the left. When you step out, Wi-Fi passwords have already been put on the screen, as I know what happens. We work on through our emails while we multitask, so if you need that, it's up there for you. All right, so I want to take a few minutes and just introduce the people in the room here that are contacts from the State Department of Education. Not everyone is here today. They're kind of spread out, but I will introduce who is here. So my team is called the Consolidated Finance and Applications Team. It is composed of 7 of us ladies. Then we have 3 other teams associated in our office. One is the monitoring team. One goes out and supports districts. And one had a large conference last week, the Title III conference. Did anybody attend that with Susan Murphy? That is Zach Taylor's team. So there are 4 within the Office of Federal and State Accountability. But today and tomorrow, you will hear from 3 of the teams. So I'll take a moment to introduce who's in the room. This is Eric Brunson. He's our tech guy. He is amazing. So he came early and he set up and got everything ready. So I wanted to thank you for that. It keeps me on track. Jennifer, tell me 2 minutes before you go to the next step. All the things. So I really appreciate Eric and all his hard work. And this is Gail Knight at the back. You should know if you are new, you are going to receive grant award notifications in the fall when we give out final Title I allocations, and Title II, and Title IV, and Title V, and NND, and so on and so forth. She is the lady that sends those out. They will go to your superintendent, and you will be tagged as the coordinator. So her name is Gail Knight. If you want to take note of that, she is the secretary in our office and does a lot of that work. So she did all the prep for making badges and things like that. So she's a great contact in our office if you do not want to contact someone straight out, she's there. And so then I will introduce 2 ladies that are on my team. We are a team now of 7, but there's only 3 of us here today. Martha Walker is on my team. She is out with the stomach virus today. So she sent me a text this morning and said, I'm sick, I'm so sorry. So maybe she'll feel better tomorrow, we'll see. Sheree Mosley may join us later. She's been under the weather as well, so we'll see. Then I have Theresa Gregory. Stand up pretty so they can see you. This is Theresa. Each of the ladies that work on my team have kind of like a designated thing that they help with. And what I mean by that is we all do similar things. We all read the grants for Title I, II, IV, and V. And then they have specialty areas. So Theresa's specialty area is being the ombudsman for us. And so Martha helped with Title IV. Leslie Blows helped with parent-family engagement. They all have a specific area that they help in. So, and then Leslie Blows is on annual leave this week. Sarah Wagers is in Washington, D.C. with Jules Stanley at a conference. I think I got them all but my new hire. Is that right? Okay, very good. All right, stand up, Makisha. This is my new hire. She is about 2 weeks in. Her name is Makisha Salter. So she's in new coordinator training for a reason today too, right? I said, you sit through that training and then we'll sit one-on-one. As time passes, and I'm going to give her a few weeks, she's going to be the NND state coordinator. Okay? So I'm not going to toss her out there just yet, but it is coming. Her name again is Makisha Salter. So if you run NND, she will soon be contacting with me, copied last name is Salter. She's coming to us with more than 20 years experience in education, military background. She's been a teacher. She's been an assistant principal. and I'm already very impressed. She's a go-getter. So I like that, appreciate that. We're gonna take N&D to a new level. So in the meantime, we're going to get audited from the U.S. Department of Eds in the spring. So if you are coming in knowing that you're going to be working on N&D, from my level to yours, there'll be contact made with you later on when I know more about what that is going to look like. Okay? And so then from what used to be Basil Harris's old team, Basil Harris has left the department, so if you're an older to this role, and you did not know that, he has left us to go to Richland 1. And so some of his team is with us today. This is Pat Sigmatelli. He'll be speaking to you shortly. Some of you may know Pat. Eric is on that team as well, Devetta Bradley, and Lynn Hammond has retired. So if you've been around and you know Lynn, she has retired. And then we have our own monitoring team. So Greg and CR Hall, if you'll stand up so they can see y'all. I hope they don't look scary, even though I say the monitoring team. Barrett Leviner is the team lead there, and he's on vacation this week. So glad to have that team, and they'll be doing some presenting tomorrow. And then Zach Taylor's team is not represented here today, probably because they finished off a large conference of their own last week. The two of them will be here tomorrow to talk to you about the homeless set aside in Title I. So you'll see Burley Wright and Kim Humphreys here tomorrow. Another thing I wanted to mention to you is I'm sure that you have learned, or maybe you have or haven't, that we have moved to a new building. And so we're actually now out of downtown Columbia. I am sad about that. I love downtown. But the building is gorgeous, and it's located out at the farmer's market. You actually drive through the farmer's market to get to it, way at the back towards the interstate. But it is a beautiful building. It's only 3 floors, whereas the Rutledge building had 11. So you can imagine like the high rise versus it's out this way. So they're all housed out there, and it is beautiful. There will be an open house and a ribbon cutting August the 12th, I believe it is, in the afternoon, open for people to come and visit. So it is a beautiful sight to see. So I encourage you, if you're interested in that, to do so. Now, I think I have hit all of the outlier notes. I have, so now I have to leave my glasses on. The older you get, the more you have to have them, right? All right, so we will jump into the meat of the matter. Thank you. Well, I'll fill the gap. You should have received a barcode. So if you want to pull the slides up on your computer, you're welcome to pull that up. It's only the same thing that you see from here. If you want to note take. If you are a brand new coordinator, sometimes coordinators are running like multiple programs. Sometimes you are just focused in one area. So it really depends from district to district. You might be a federal programs director, and you might be working with multiple grants, Title I, II, IV, V. So as we go through the next couple of days, you'll kind of get to see what does each one look like and how do they differ. Okay. And this is what the agenda will look like today. We'll pause about 11:30. We'll go to lunch. We'll come back, stay till about 4 o'clock. That is our plan. We're going to talk about the background of Title I. We're going to talk about How do you handle Title I in the online grant system? What is it based on? If you are inheriting a plan, that means you're going to have to go into GEMS, pull it up and read what your predecessor put in. And you're going to have to follow through with that plan. So we're going to talk about that and what to expect as a new coordinator. And the little bullets here in the center, the comprehensive needs assessment, district level set-asides, poverty and school allocations, and school-wide plans. That is what the Title I plan is composed of. And at the end of the day, we will talk about GEMS, where all of these things are housed, what you're supposed to do with them, and what it looks like, and so on and so forth. When you leave today, I want you to feel good about the Title I plan. So we will focus on what do I do with Title I. Talk about what is allowable. So when I read the activities that have been put in that plan, if it's already been approved, if it's an approved plan, that means that all the activities listed have been deemed as allowable. If it has gone back for revisions needed, it might be because your program manager has not been able to determine if something is allowable or not. It could be that they need more information. And you find all of their comments in a specific place in GEMS, and I'll show you where that is at the end of the day. We'll talk about what supplement, not supplant means, because if you're new, you might say, oh, that sounds like Greek to me. We'll talk about what that is, and we'll have some table talk. I'll build your background a little bit about Title I. Prior to ESSER, does anybody work with ESSER or have worked with ESSER? Okay. Prior to ESSER, Title I was the largest grant given out. When we saw that ESSER came on board, it was put out, we helped do the first round of allocations for that, Sheree Mosley and myself, and I was astounded at the funding of that grant. And at that point, I thought, well, Title I kind of fails in comparison to ESSER. But ESSER is going away. Quarantine is gone. So now I notice that Title I continues to be the leading grant. So why does it have its own day? Because it is the biggest bear pretty much given out. It and special education services at IDEA, a lot of funding there as well. So when I say it is the largest, how much is it that I'm talking about? So Title I, we distribute out about $260 million to the districts across the state. That is given out based upon various data points that come from the U.S. Department of Ed and poverty and population and things of that nature. But Title I pushes out about $260 million each year to help disadvantaged students. Okay, how long is a Title I grant open? Title I, Title II, Title IV, Title V, and indeed, all of those are open for 2 years. They are a 2-year grant. So the 23 is coming to an end. The 24 goes on through September 30th of 25. And we just gave out preliminary allocations for the 25 grant that will expire September the 30th of 2026. And so we will talk about, is there a certain amount that we need to spend the first year of the grant? Do we just let the principals spend the money as they want to? Or do we need, from my level, to be saying something? We will talk about all of that. These grants are open for 2 years. One thing that you need to know going in, if you are a new coordinator and you're doing anything with GAPS, especially GAPS is the financial system that you use to claim the funds associated with the activities in your GEMS project. So you're working in 2 systems, GEMS project, which is where the programmatic piece is going on, where you send to us, and we look at how is the district going to spend the money in each of the served schools. But you actually budget the funds and you claim the funds in a system called GAPS. So if you are responsible for entering budgets or expenditures or anything like that, please make sure that you do have access to both systems. If you do not have access to GAPS, your contact there would be Sequoia Burden in the grants accounting office. And I'm happy to give you that information later. If you get into it and you say, oh, I'm supposed to have a role that I don't have, you can contact me directly and I will help you set up for that. Final expenditure claims are due November the 15th of each year. What's your role? We kind of scripted it out, especially if you are new. For the veteran folks, you kind of learn more about your role as you go along. I will tell you, as a new person to the role, it is going to take you approximately 3 years before you begin to feel real comfortable with it. And even then, it is still an ongoing learning process. I did it about 8 years at the district level, and this is year 9 at the state level, and I am still learning. There's always something to be learned. So if it sounds like Greek to you today, don't have a heart attack, okay? Just like I told Makisha, it's supposed to sound like Greek to you today. But I will do my best to try to interpret and make you feel more comfortable before you go back and you're thrown back into it. Okay, what do you need to do? You need to be up to date on the latest in education reform efforts and understand curriculum and instruction. Why do you need to understand curriculum and instruction? Because you might be holding the money bag that helps pay for curriculum and instruction, right? You have to know the need of the district, the needs of the children, the needs of the school, and how that funding can help support the needs in your district. You need to understand the law, the regulations, and the guidance related to Title I, which is why you are here today. We also have a website that as a new person you go out on, and it is broken down by grant, Title I, II, IV, V, N, and D, and it's full of resources that you can find. So if you go to ed.sc.gov, that's the State Department's website, you'll click down to federal education programs, and then it will pull up all of the grants, and you'll have access to the training here today. Later on, we will load that. If you want to go back into last year's new coordinator training and listen to that, it's loaded. So it's full of resources to help you along the way. Okay. You have a major responsibility to see that the funds that flow to the district are used for the educational purposes intended in the law. You have a role in overseeing that the funds that are spent are in compliance with that law. And you need to be well versed in both program and compliance. Well, how do I know what that is? You need to attend trainings. Hopefully the person that has vacated the position that you have come into wrote into the plan for you to be able to travel and go to conferences that are offered. So I want to encourage you to look in the Title I plan and see if specific conferences are offered there. You may see SCADA listed. That is a conference that is held at the beach in October. That is a great one where you can learn a lot more about federal programs and other things. You may see NAFIPA written in. That one is in DC. There's just various opportunities that come out to you as your email has been received so that you can go to trainings and sit and learn things as well. Tips to survive. I hate to use that word, but When you do, that's how you feel, right? Am I going to survive this? I can remember, and I'm going to tell Teresa's business, but I can remember when she came aboard into our office, and she was sitting through some training, and I was sitting in front of her, and I turned around and looked, and she just had this like deer in the headlights look, like, what is this? And I said, it's going to be okay. And so I'm going to say to you the same thing I said to her. It's going to be okay. You will learn it, and it will be fine. So learn the federal programs from multiple perspectives. You're going to have to learn whichever grant it is that you are overseeing. If it's more than one, they are different and they have different purposes. So you will learn today and tomorrow what the purposes are for each grant, why they're run, how they're run. Evaluate your program activities. Well, what does that mean? As you take on Title I and the schools are doing the activities written in that plan, you should be evaluating that. What does that mean, Jennifer? Well, at the end of the year, you need to figure out, did we have a return on investment? Did we get out of it what we were hoping to gain? So if you are purchasing a reading program for a school, well, you need to evaluate the effectiveness of the program. You don't want to waste the funding, right? Now, if you are new or if you have ever taught, raise your hand if you have taught in the classroom. Let me see. Okay, good. Thank you. You'll know what I'm saying. You know, if you have ever implemented a reading program or a math program, that it takes about 3 years to really be able to see if it's working. Am I correct? But from year to year, you can look at the data. You can talk to the teachers. You can talk to the principals, and you can say, how is it going? And if it is not going well, you can amend the plan. Okay, or the next year, when you write the Title I project, you all might decide that it did not meet the need, and we need to purchase something else. And those are conversations that you have to have with principals and the stakeholders at the school, so that the funding is used to the best that it can be to meet the needs of those kids. Understand and control the budget. Let me just be real. This is one of the most important things that will be said today and tomorrow. You need to make friends with the people in the finance department. It is not just their responsibility to make sure that the funding is being spent according to the plan. Raise your hand, monitoring team. They're going to come in and they're going to pull the project and they're going to look at it by the activities, and they're going to want to see purchase requisitions, and they're going to match it up. Okay? They do the same thing on our level. Pull it and let me see what you have spent. If the district is spending the funding on something that is not approved in that plan, and it is caught, the district will have to pay that funding back. So what is your part in that? You have to talk to the principals, and you got to look at the purchase requisitions and make sure the funding is being claimed based on what is in that project. Well, how do I do that, Jennifer? You better look at more than just function and object codes, because finance is only looking at function and object codes. You need to be looking at reading, whatever it is, whatever kind of reading program they purchase. Is that the amount I put in this plan? Or is that the amount that Brian Odom put in this plan before he retired? You have to track it. Okay? You are going to be the one sitting with the monitoring team. So pull it up and look at it and track it. Have hard conversations if you need to. Can I tell you, you don't always have to be liked. You're not always gonna like me, but it's the job we do, right? So do your part, control the budget. If you can't, call me. I will help you, okay? Because it has to be done accurately. Tap outside resources. You just wrote down your best friend's name. Call them and say, has this ever happened to you? If they're brand new too, you can say, well, did the person before you encounter anything like this that you were aware of? What do you think we need to do? Have some conversations, okay? I also am happy to set you up with a mentor. So if you are brand new and you would like to have conversations with somebody in the field that has done it before and is in a district near you, you can contact me and I will try to set that up for you. Okay? We can have some mentoring to help you as well. Tap your outside resources. Train your staff and those who work with you. Okay? If you have a person that their salary is written into the plan to help you, okay, make sure that you train them on what you want them to do. And I know that you're new, but as you go through today and tomorrow, be thinking about what can they do to help support me in my goals. Be visible. I'm about to get in some business. You all are supposed to go into the schools with the principals, or you need to bring them to you. Okay? This is not a situation where I just work at the district office and I don't support, and I don't go look, and I don't talk, and I don't have conversations. I'm telling you because I've done it. I've been on the school level, okay? Your role is to be visible, to be the helper, to be the one that takes the questions. Because principals are covered up. Can I get an amen, Lakeisha? They're covered up. Okay? They need your help. You have to guide. You have to say, how can I help you? How can I support you? Can we get together and look at this plan again? And it will also be your responsibility to set the expectations for them. Your superintendent should be allowing you the leverage to be able to give some expectations. Like, here's one for you. Principals. You are supposed to spend the majority of Title I the first year of the grant. You need to say that to them. And you need to document that you have said that to them. They need to understand that 85% of Title I has to be expended the first year. We have to track that, okay? It is your responsibility to oversee that. So after September 30th of this year, I'm going to pull a report and I'm going to see that all the districts have spent down to 85% of the 24 Title I grant. If it is missed and the district is not allowed a waiver, we have to take back the amount that the district missed it by. Title I is the only grant that has that expectation on it. There are claiming expectations on the other grants, and we'll get into that, but Title I can have funding taken back if that is not met. So again, you have to call them in. You have to go in the field. You have to say, hey, let's talk about the activities in your plan. Which one have you already claimed everything? You've already ordered all that. Which ones have we marked off? Print out a copy and sit down and say, let's scratch off what you have already ordered that's in this plan. Now let's look at what you have left. Do you need those parenting supplies? If you don't, okay, well, I can do an amendment for you. What do you need? Let's amend that activity. So you can help them change what's in the grant if they don't need the activities. That will help them expend most of the funding that first year. Okay, you can say to them, you have written down that you need the money. So if you are not spending and doing the activities, it looks like we don't need it. So what is the issue? Do we need to edit? Do you need help? What do you need? So that is a role of yours. Seek help from the veterans. Raise your hand if you're a veteran in the room today. I have some here. Raise it high, raise it high. There's your experts. So when we take a break, raise it high again. There's your expert. Now you're going to make BFF number 2. Raise your hand again. That's going to be your BFF number 2. Okay? They've done it a long time. They will have good advice for you. Okay? Even though it's new coordinators, sometimes they still come because they think I'm going to say something I've never said before. She said, I always do. I don't even mean to, but maybe I do. But anyway, they can support you as well, those that have been in the field a while, and work with your SEA staff. Jewel Stanley is our director in the Office of Federal and State Accountability. She was the team lead in my position before me. She's done all this. She has an open door policy. You can reach out to her as well. And you have program managers. And let me say one thing before I give it to Theresa. As a newbie, I don't know if you have been told yet, Martha Walker is your program manager. Raise your hand if you know who your program manager is. Okay, so you've already been told. Okay, as you're coming in to do Title I, Title II, Title IV, Title V, you have a contact on my team. It's going to be either Martha, Sarah, Leslie, Sheree, Theresa, or myself. I have about 6 districts myself. And then for internal controls, which you will look at for your own district, we have a second level review. I'm the second eyes on their work as well. So you have a program manager. If you don't know who that is, email me. I'll get you in contact with your person. Now, I will tell you that as I train Makisha, later on, I will shift some program manager assignments to bring her in. But my first goal is the N&D monitor figure. Okay, and her learning N&D. So once we get that established and out the gate, I will let you know if I'm swapping your program manager. For the most part, it will remain the same, but there will be little tweaks here and there, and I'm happy to bring on a new lady to my team. Okay? Any questions before I give it to Theresa as she gets into Title I, one of them? Okay?
Good morning. Good morning. Again, my name is Theresa Gregory. I have 16 districts. I see a lot of smiling faces that I've already done. It is a pleasure to be here to see each and every one of you. It looks like our group keeps growing every year, but it's a good thing, and I appreciate everyone that comes, especially the veterans, to get the refreshers that they need. I'm going to speak with you this morning about the actual Title I 101. We started talking about Title I 101 to give you the basics behind it. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to cover right now, we're going to be going in depth later on today. So if it sounds, again, like some Greek, it is going to be explained to you a little further down the line. What must be included in an LEA Title I plan? This is what it is, the base, I guess you say the groundwork for what you need to do for your Title I plan. Under the section, 11112 of EFDA, the district plan must describe, how the LEA will identify and address disparities that result in low income and minority students being taught by ineffective out-of-field and experienced teachers. You also need to make sure that your plan is going to include some type of poverty criteria that the LEA will use to select your served schools. It is also important that the services be provided to homeless children and youth. We're going to have Burley and Kim, I think it is coming to speak tomorrow, and they're going to go into detail about the homeless children and how you actually go about the homeless LEA set-asides that need to be placed in your Title I plan. We need to have strategies for parent and family engagement. Leslie Blows is actually our parent and family engagement person responsible on our team board. And of course, she is a good resource to reach out to when it comes down to your planning for that portion of it. For the LEA, will support, coordinate, and integrate Title I services for preschool students with other early childhood programs, if applicable. A lot of these things you notice that when I was talking about it, you do have different people that's going to be involved with it. But there's one thing that I want to stress to each and every one of you. There is this myth about you cannot contact people at SCBE. The myth needs to be quashed. Anytime, and I tell all of my districts, if you need something, reach out to me. I worry when you're sitting up here guessing about things instead of contacting me. I don't have a problem picking up the phone and talking to you, email, if we have to do a Teams call. I have some districts that can verify that. But I would prefer you go ahead and reach out to us and let us assist you in any way possible. It's better to get it straightened out the first time around instead of having to go back and make multiple trips of what you need to do. LEA assurances. The LEA plan must ensure that it will ensure the migratory children and former migratory children are selected to receive Title I services on the same basis as other children. We do have Zach's team that is responsible for it. So we need to make sure we are reaching out to them to get the assistance that you need to get to inquire about the information that you need to help this plan be a success. We need to provide equitable services to private school children. We're better to talk about that than the ombudsman for the things out there about it. We are required by federal law to make sure that the private schools are receiving what they need to receive. Under Title I, it is your responsibility to make sure that every private school within your location as well as outside of your location for Title I only, that the students are being reached. If you know children within your district are attending some other area, county, shall I say, then it is your responsibility as the LEA within that district where the kids live that you're reaching out to all of your private schools. Because we have to ensure that they're receiving Title I services. Coordinate and integrate Title I services with other educational services such as MLS, which is Zach's team, for children with disabilities, migratory children, and homeless children and youth. Very important that when we're doing these LEA set-asides, that we're reaching out and more what we need to do as required by federal law. We have to designate a point of contact with VSS. It is the responsibility of the LEA to make sure that you establish procedures for transporting foster children, foster care students, to the school of origin. And of course, ensure that teachers and paraprofessionals working in Title I programs meet the state certification and license requirement. Plan development. Each LEA, you are going to have to develop this consultation with teachers, principals, You're gonna include administrators, you're gonna include parents. In other words, you're basically gonna have to include people which are being called your stakeholders. You're gonna have to make sure that, make sure that you are meeting with them on a yearly basis to ensure that what you're wanting to put in the plan is something that they're going to have the input on what happens. What does that look like? A Title I coordinator should meet with stakeholders to plan based on needs in a timely manner, which all of you, I'm pretty sure, are doing every year. You have these meetings that come in and you meet regularly with your stakeholders to ensure that the title that you're working on under is going to meet the needs that is required for the school or the district as a whole. Make sure that when you have these meetings, you're doing a sign-in sheet, you're doing an agenda and a meeting minutes. This is actually required to be put in GIMS. Also, remember, when you're doing this sign-in sheet, you need to make sure that the stakeholders are being identified. You're going to be placed in what position they hold. If that's a teacher, you put it in as a principal. But one thing for sure, you need to make sure as the LEA or the federal programs manager, director, that you are attending all of these meetings. Someone from that office should be there at all meetings, and it needs to be identified, because believe it or not, these minutes, the sign-in sheet, the agendas will have to be included on all of your titles, or it should be included in all of your titles. Because we're required to review it to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do as your meetings are required. These assessments should tie directly to the activities within the GIMS plan. So the needs assessments, if they're not in the plan, if you're in your GIMS plan, but they're not on your needs assessment plan, we've got some problems. Because there should be some connection by what you're requesting to be paid as far as requesting for Title I funding or to Title II any funding. That needs assessments need to match exactly what you're putting in for your request for funding. So it's important that you meet with these stakeholders and discuss the needs and then develop your plan. Okay, fiscal requirements. Each one of these, there are 3 major fiscal rules that reinforce the fundamentals of Title I. Each one of them that you see over here will be discussed specifically in detail later on this afternoon, or even tomorrow. We have the supplement not supplant. I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with supplement not supplant. I'm waiting to see the faces to see supplement not supplant is one of the things that can make, or, well, I would say could be a thorn in the side, especially when you're trying to decide what is going to supplement and what's not going to supplement. It's a specific detail that Jennifer will be going into about it. Comparability and maintenance of efforts. We do have Greg King that actually takes care of our maintenance of efforts, and he also does the comparability portion of it. So he will be speaking on that tomorrow, I think. So these fiscal rules ensure that federal funds are used to provide extra services to children who are at greater risk of failing to reach the state academic standards. And as I explained earlier, each one of these are going to be in detail for you, so you'll have a full understanding of what it is to be supplemental but not supplanting, and of course your comparability in the MOE. These rules require that the LEA district demonstrate services that provide with Title I funds are in addition to those services that would be provided in the absence of federal funds, which is your SNS. State and local funding of Title I schools is at least equivalent to the funding provided to the non-Title I schools, which is comparability. And of course, the state and the district are maintaining the current level of state and local funding. Support for the education, support for education from year to year, which is your MOE. And again, all of these will be explained to you specifically in detail later on. All righty, I'm going to turn it over to the Innovation and Support Team. They're going to be doing the comprehensive needs assessment. And the person that will be taking care of that for us today is Pat. So I'm going to give it to him. And he can carry on.
Good morning. All right, well, I got a great topic, I think. It's gonna be drinking from a fire hose today on compliance, right? This is mostly about things, it's certainly within the levels of compliance, it's important. But the idea of a needs assessment is for school improvement. Jennifer had a slide up earlier that talked about Title I is about fair, equal, and significant opportunities for access to a quality education, right? And that you should have experience in curriculum and instruction and understand some of the things that are happening in education, because school improvement is hard. It really is. Because you're getting so much information today, I'm going to give you one nugget right now, and that's going to be school improvement to me. I'm going to give you some fundamentals and a framework for it. But school improvement is about a commitment, it's about a desire, it's about a passion to make change. Because if you don't have that, you can have this blueprint of these fundamentals and it won't happen. I'll tell you a couple real quick stories. When I was, this is my 42nd year in education. I served as a classroom teacher, coach, I've been an athletic director, building assistant principal, curriculum director, assistant superintendent. I worked with the superintendent before I retired and came back and worked for the South Carolina Department of Education. So I've seen education from a lot of lenses. As a teacher, I was in a building that was high poverty, low achievement, and we worked and did some things to really make some differences. One role when I became a high school principal was at a school that achieved in probably the top 10% in the state. But the superintendent who hired me said I want to be in the top 1%. And I had people when I took the job who said you're crazy, but you want me finished? In the top 1-2%. Real quick in athletics, I was a strength and conditioning coach before I got back into administration. I was with a Major League Baseball team called the Cleveland Indians. 1990, we lost 105 games my first year there. Brand new organization, new general manager, new field manager, everything was new. In 2004, we were going to win the division. There was a strike in baseball. You might remember in 2005, we lost the World Series to the Atlanta Braves. And I was part of that organization and watched that happen. And change in sports is no different than change in education. It was about a passion and a commitment and those kinds of things. And so I tell you those stories very briefly because when you're a part of it, you see what it takes. And so what we're going to talk about today is the needs assessment. And that's really important. You really have to have a plan to drive your funds, not having funds to drive your plan. If the folks in your district tell you, how much money do we have to spend this year? And I'll tell you what I want. You're in a bad way, right? You need to understand at a diagnostic level what your needs are. Then you can use those funds as part of your plan to make sure the kids get what they need. Remember, fair equals significant opportunities for education. So if school improvement is about addressing problems, the first step is knowing what they are. So we're going to talk about needs assessment. You know, one of the things you saw on the outline is that the title is a comprehensive needs assessment. So for your Title I program, I'm hoping your district does a more comprehensive needs assessment for the strategic planning that's being done. Title I fits underneath that. Anybody here, are you doing a Title I needs assessment only? Is it kind of outside the scope of other things? Not sure. Most of them, it looks like it is. Good. So it should be comprehensive in that sense. So needs assessment is the first step in understanding what you need to do to improve your building, your district, or that area through Title I funds. As Jennifer said, the federal government has a $260 million investment just in the state of South Carolina, just in Title I, to help students. And so we certainly have a professional obligation to use that money wisely and strategically. So it's a process too. It's not a one and done. It's an ongoing thing. Even a needs assessment, you're always going to evaluate what you're doing. I tell that to say, you know, like in sport, I still remember I was a graduate assistant basketball coach here, like the newbie. And the coach had me keeping stats of some things that seemed like minutiae. But as I learned and grew and understood, we would use that information to inform us during the game, at halftime, at the end of the game, for the next game we played, and so forth. We were always using data, information, as a process to improve constantly. And so it does worry me sometimes when I see plans or I see a needs assessment, and most of what it's looked at is the state report card data. That's great data. That's a great start. That shouldn't be your only data. You should be using all kinds of data, which we'll talk about in a minute. And so needs assessment is a systematic examination of that gap between what is your current reality and where do you want to go? What's your desired state? And so you really need to have this information, again, in a diagnostic way. So this is the South Carolina Department of Education School Improvement Model. You see step one. If you can read that, it says diagnose. And I do love that word because imagine if you were given $260 million. So your portion of that, whatever that is, or you personally were given money to go to the doctor because I need to have a diagnosis of what's going on, right? This is my current state of health. My desired state is here. And the diagnosis the doctor said was, how are you feeling? Well, let me take your temperature. Oh, I've got a plan for how I can fix or improve that, right? That wasn't very diagnostic. But if he says, how are you feeling? And then does lots of different tests, what's the chances that he's going to get here, you're going to get the information that really will help them make a strategic determination of how to best spend that money? You ever use literacy or, curriculum reading? There are a ton of opportunities to buy materials to support reading, right? Yet our reading scores don't change a lot. It's not the material so much, it's the diagnosis. It's the understanding of what the students need, and then providing that training to the staff so they can implement it in a way that's successful. So being diagnostic is really important, so that you can be focused and intentional in your actions. The reading plan for District X could be different than the reading plan for District Y, depending upon what that diagnosis says. So the needs assessment is that first step. So in its most easy sense, it really is, where are we now? Where do we want to be? How will we get there? What do we need to do? And then what are we learning along the way? I want to emphasize that too. If there's a second nugget, the first one was passion, really in a commitment to improvement. The second one is monitoring along the way. You really need to have data all the time that helps you to understand if something's working. Like Jennifer said too, also, you got to be careful before you would abandon a process or an initiative that you established. Make sure you've given it a full opportunity for strong implementation. So I like this quote from Mike Schmoger because I truly believe it. And I've lived it in several examples. School improvement is not a mystery. Incremental, even dramatic improvement is not only possible, but probable under the right conditions. You're one part of a team that will help make that happen. You're not necessarily, a lot of times, even the lead person, but you're part of that team. So one of the things too that I want you to always keep in mind when you're doing school improvement, because school improvement and change is hard, is your why. Now, why is that? Students deserve it, right? Every student deserves the opportunity to have a significantly strong chance of being successful with the state standards. So why? Well, ESSA tells you have to. In Title 1, you've got to do a needs assessment. But more importantly, it's about improvement. It's not just to make sure you're compliant. It's about making sure you identify and prioritize those things, again, that are really going to focus on the challenges that you have. So what happens in most districts, in our observation, certainly in my observation, first one, lack of time. A lot of times people don't get deep enough with the needs assessment. They don't do all the work they have to do to truly be diagnostic. And so they know they have problems with their reading scores. And so they could go on What Works Clearinghouse and say, okay, we have X amount of dollars. This resource has been proven to work. We'll buy the resource. So that maybe the training wasn't what it should be, the implementation wasn't as deep, whatever the issue, but the lack of time is one of those. Insufficient tools. It could be that you didn't take the tool that you need to use to be diagnostic, to drill down, to understand what is really the root cause of the deficiency or the gap. sometimes asking the wrong question, which is one of the reasons you want to have as many people involved as you can. The more lenses you can have, the better. Sometimes when you look at a problem, enough times, right? You ever have to write a paper and you look at it and you look at it, you reread it, you vetted it, and then you give it to someone else and they find 5 things you didn't find because you read it 9 times. So that asking the wrong question can happen from being too familiar. Jumping to solutions. Sometimes people will say, well, I know that X district did this, or we've done this before, so let's just do this. We'll try this program. You really need to be a deep diagnostic in that way. And then a lack of diversity of stakeholders, that goes back to that too familiar problem, and sometimes the same group of people looking at it. Unfortunately, needs assessments, because of that lack of time, we've seen it too, where it's 2 people in a room, it's the principal and somebody else. Or, right, maybe a curriculum director or assistant superintendent and 2 or 3 other people, and it's that same set of eyes. Make sure there's a diversity at that so that you can really understand what your problems are. So there are some steps that have to go on. First, the plan. We'll talk about these steps in a little more detail. Collect and analyze data, and interpreting that information, understanding that gap analysis, determining what your priorities are. Here's another issue. Sometimes some people have way too many priorities. They've got lots of different things they want to do with multiple action steps and strategies underneath them. And in order for an initiative to be successful, you have to monitor it. I've asked districts that. I've seen districts have 15 goals with 25 action steps to support it. And that's great if they're being deep. Are you monitoring the 15 times 25 in a way that you can honestly say what's going on and what's working, what's not working? So I think sometimes you gotta be careful. And then connecting to implementation, because without good implementation, we've all seen it. District X buys a new reading program or a math series, and they implement it for 3 years, and the training's kind of incomplete. Professional development that goes on then within that time frame is not deep enough. And after 3 years, they get rid of the program and they start another. And they were maybe just getting traction and should have had better traction if they'd have done some other things to make sure that implementation was right. So the plan is to define the purpose or the intended outcomes. What is it that you want to get done? Cover those guiding questions and establish those actions, timelines, and responsibilities. So that's kind of building a framework, if you will, for the improvement. Need to identify stakeholders. And again, I want to stress that the more that you can have within reason and the bigger diversity that you can have in lenses, the better, because that way you'll get different perspectives on the challenges that you have. And then articulate the content, process, the presentation, and how to just produce the results, making sure that you keep it on the front burner, making sure that you're monitoring it and that the stakeholders are informed. The other thing about having stakeholders informed, of course, is that that's how they get buy-in. People will only change as much as they trust you. I've learned that in a lot of different ways in my athletic career, as a coach, and as a superintendent. If you don't develop that level of trust and buy-in to a process, they're not going to trust it. And when times get tough, but no school improvement initiative is on a trajectory like this, right? What do most of them do? They kind of go up and down, there may be a plateau, if you have trust, people will push through those hard parts. If you don't have trust and buy-in, they won't. So stakeholder engagement, that needs assessment process should be undertaken rather than by a small group of leaders or it's an outside entity. Outside entities are fine if you've had some level of consultant or group that came in, as long as your stakeholders are a part of that too. Engaging different groups of folks, and then by developing trust, as I just talked about in that process, I think that's a huge word. Again, anytime you're asking people to change, they have to trust you. One of the things that I've heard said that I think is important too is school improvement is really people improvement. When we talk about student outcomes, what is the #1 indicator for student outcomes? Quality of teaching, right? So if the teacher doesn't get better through the initiative that you have, so you bought a new reading program, gave them minimal training, and if you, in your observations, notice that the same teacher with New bottle of wine versus the old bottle of wine, are they gonna be better? Probably not, right? That curriculum per se is not the answer. And so it's important that we look at that. Full improvement is equal improvement. So one of the things, and you saw on one of the research slides, all the mention of subgroups. I'm surprised sometimes, so I'm on a team that reads all the strategic and school renewal plans across the entire state. I've seen many of them. And I'm surprised how many plans don't have one goal for a subgroup. No one. In any area. They're rare, as I say. It's not just a couple districts like that. They're fairly rare. And so I think it's important to understand and look at patterns of achievement for students, subgroups. So you collect and get that data. Where do you get it from? There's lots of places. Those are just examples. Again, I want to share with you, don't just rely on finding data from the state report card. And one of the ways some people have expressed it is that's kind of an outhouse. Third grade, for those third grade scores is over, right, for those students. Now, we can improve third grade for next year, and we should look at that data. So don't hear me say that that's bad data or not usable data. It's important data, and it's data that we absolutely should be looking at. But it's kind of after the fact. The more important data are what are those diagnostics during the year? And, again, as Jennifer said, you should understand curriculum. Ask your curriculum, what are we doing in third grade or fourth grade? I'm just picking that grade by chance. To understand the progress of students in reading throughout the year. Do we have those measures? Are they monitored? What do we do with that data? How do we use it? How can we support you with title money to understand better or have measures that are diagnostic to get us timely information so that teachers within the school year can make an assessment, not when the report card comes out. Okay, third grade teachers, you didn't do so well this year. Your kids didn't do so well. Gotta look at something different. Well, those kids are through third grade, right? So we really want to be timely with that. So there are some places you can get it, but most importantly, you see things in there that are going on throughout the year. Interpreting information, that's making sure you have people at the table who understand data and can put it into context. And the next second bullet point to me, and you see it highlighted, is having tough conversations. I think a lot of times where this breaks down is not having those tough conversations. Some people don't want to do that. And again, you're only one team member. I'm not saying you're putting that on your plate. But I'm just saying as part of being professionals, that's something that we all have to be a part of. And then when you're looking at questions in general, such as what percent of students are suspending each year, versus looking at it in the sense of are we suspending more students with disabilities for discretionary offenses? So for example, non-discretionary offenses might be, violence or drug possession or something that is tough to be discretionary with. But are we suspending more students with disabilities for behavior, for outbursts, for disrespect? What is the source of the problem? Can we find a way to use monies to help those students not have that problem so that they're in school? You see where I'm going? So the questions are more about really how can we look at opportunities for growth versus the same old. Yeah, we always suspend students with disabilities more. They have more issues. Wow. Is there a way for us to understand and work with some of the controllables and make that better? Talked about determining priorities. You do have to be careful. I guess I will tell you, if you have students, you probably one of your priorities will be literacy, and specifically early literacy. Is everybody here whose early literacy scores don't need to be improved? Nobody's, correct? And so, and what does literacy help with? Everything, pretty much, right? Even touches on math for sure, but it certainly helps with science and social studies and all around. So, it's one of your priorities probably, but making sure too, in that third bullet point, the local context, you have to be careful when a vendor or somebody says, this works. Okay, it works for who and how and why and what are our challenges and how does that fit into our context? That's really important. So as you're doing all this, you're going to use that information, all that data, that synthesis and understanding to develop a problem statement. So I'm going to spend just a couple slides here on problem statements because when you're done, your problem statement should help you direct how you're going to plan your funds, right? So you're going to clarify the problem. So from the data analysis, we have a problem. What is it? In specifics, in a diagnostic way. We're going to describe the unfavorable condition that prevents the goal objective from happening. Okay, so what's getting in the way? As we got deep into this, what can we do differently? I'll tell you, one of them will be, again, people improvement. Make sure professional development is part of any plan, that it's sufficient, that if you buy new stuff, that the people who are implementing know how to use the stuff effectively. Because if the teachers don't improve, kids don't learn. And then the problem statement answers those questions, right? So a quality check could be this. And again, you guys have this PowerPoint. This is not for today. We're not going to do a problem statement, but this is information you can take back. It's got to hit those factors. It's got, what that's doing is making it very, very specific and very diagnostic. Again, if you say we've got $80,000 in Title I, I don't know what to do, let's buy a new reading program. Right? And yeah, you guys know, we hear it all the time. We see it too often. You really need to do the plan in a way that's deep and meaningful, so that drives what the funds are used for. So the next thing is connected implementation. So that final phase of the needs assessment is taking the results and plugging it in and making it actionable. Again, don't forget it's got to be implemented. Don't forget it has to be monitored. So making sure there's priorities, connecting with implementation. And it can be a lot deeper than what I'm doing right here today, but I'm giving you the idea. So here's a graphic that kind of talks about it. So you're going to develop a problem statement. That problem statement is going to inform your performance objectives in your plan, right? Problem statement is going to be developed and refined by a root cause. What were the things that caused that problem, which then informs those strategies? Because now that's specific to the context of your school. Within your district, you may have one school that has a different plan than another school. And it could be in reading, but a different plan. Slightly, for sure, because of these kinds of things. And then obviously those performance objectives being achieved through the strategies, which then helps get you to the goal. And so you can see how that process needs to be informed by a deep dive, a deep look at what those challenges are. We have, through our department, through the agency, the Innovation Station. How many of you have ever been on Innovation Station? Some of you could. It's a set of resources. I'm not going to spend time today, but know it's a tremendous resource that's available to you and has information in the area of the needs assessment planning, of evidence-based interventions. If somebody, I know not everyone in this room is a curricular expert because I worked in curriculum for about 6 years. I'm not a curriculum expert, that's all I did all day. Like Jennifer said, you could do that for 20 years and still be learning. So if you need information on evidence-based interventions because you're not sure, someone proposed something, go here. Wentworth Clearinghouse, Johns Hopkins, there's some places that they do that work for you. And then you can look and see what do the national experts think about this program? How does it work? And then teaching children in poverty is another specific area that we have resources for. So it's really a good set of vetted tools and information that are available to you for free. And we're happy to provide contacts for assistance if when you get there, not sure what you're seeing or if you're not sure you got your answer. So that is my quick rundown of needs assessment. Any questions, comments about what we did really quickly? So on this slide, there is some old information. Unfortunately, Basil, as Jennifer told us, and Lynn are no longer with us, but Eric is here. The veteran, Bradley is, and myself. So if there's anything you want some help with, that information, if you have the slide deck, is available, and certainly, like Marisa said as well, we're happy to help. I'm on the innovation and support team. Our job is to help you. We do not do monitoring like the mean people back in the back. We're just here to help, and so thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I know we have 30 minutes and then we're going to go to lunch. I'm going to try to plow through just one piece of Title I, the Title I plan. We're going to look at the district piece of the Title I plan. If you have your computer open and you have access to your district's Title I 25 preliminary plan, I would like for you to log into it and pull it up. We'll give you a minute to do that. Hopefully you do at this point if you are a new Title I coordinator. You are a veteran, you wrote the plan. You definitely have access. 25 Title I preliminary. Jennifer, why don't you make me pull it up? Because you better know it like the back of your hand pretty soon. You have got to monitor this plan in your new role. Where's the first place I need to start if I haven't even read the plan? This afternoon, we're going to talk about each link in GEMS, what it's for, what it houses, why is it utilized, so that you know where to look. I would start with the needs assessment. What are the needs of these schools? What do they say they need? For the program managers, they have 2 monitors in our office, and when they review a Title I plan, on one screen is the needs assessment, and on the other screen is the Title I project for whatever school they're looking at. And if they do not see the correlation between the needs assessment and the activities, they're going to send it back with questions. Okay, that needs assessment, like Mr. Pat said, is what is driving the plan. The needs assessment are supposed to be located in a place called the related documents in GEMS, and I'll show you where that is a little bit later on. When you first go into GEMS, you're on the home page. The home page is where messages are posted. They're put there so that every time you open up GEMS, bam, somebody saying something to me, it's right there. Okay, so when you open up GEMS and the home page pops up, you need to read to see if there are any new messages. Can anybody tell me what the newest message is on the home page of GEMS? I just put one in. Yes, it says the N&D survey is almost due. Okay, so sometimes I will email the messages to you. How do I get the messages, Jennifer? This afternoon, we're going to go into the contact link, and we're going to see if you're in there as the contact. If you're not, we need to talk about how to get you in there if you are the new Title I coordinator, because that's how you receive information. So let's just say I'm talking about Oconee. It should not say Brian Odom. He just retired. It should say the new person's name. Otherwise, nobody's getting the communication. While I'm talking about that, right now the 23 plan and the 24 plan is also open. You will be overseeing those plans as well. So you need to make sure your contact information is in there for all of those grants as well, and not the person who has left the position. Otherwise, if we're sending any information, you're not going to get it. Okay. All right. I hope that you are in. If you are, I would like for you to just look down that screen until you see where it says LEA set-asides. Click into that. You should be on the sections page. Look down all the links until you see LEA set-asides. Click into that. Okay, now I want you to take a minute and read what's on that screen. Then I'm going to teach you about that district plan. Okay. Read what is written on the LEA set-asides page. If you need help, raise your hand, I'll come to you. There's a lot of us. No. First one again, raise your hand. Saunders in. Another one in. Teresa, if you'll walk around with me and help them if they need any help. So. You need help, raise your hand. You need help getting in, more than just a spin. It's trying. Anybody else still waiting? Yes, Teresa, do not tell on me. If you need your information put into Jim's, okay, get ready to write down the contact. Leslie's going to kill me. She's not here. If you need your information put in, because it's still the last person, okay, you can email Leslie Close, that is LBLOSS @ed.sc.gov, or jrose@ed.sc.gov. That's me. And we can help you get it. Teresa can too. T. Gregory @ed.sc.gov. All that information will be on the last slide, everybody's email, but we can get you in. You're going to be able to have to receive communication. All right, let's talk about what happens in that LEA set-aside link. Okay? This is the amount of funding that you're going to leave on the district level. Jennifer, what does that mean? That means the schools were not given this piece of the money. Okay, so there are certain pieces of the puzzle that the district itself takes care of. And then the remainder of the funding is pushed out to the Title I served schools. Later on, we're going to talk about which schools are served. Jennifer, how was that determined? Okay, we'll talk about that. But this is the funding that you're going to handle at the district level. And you're going to be reading the activities, if you didn't write the project, to see, okay, what is the district itself paying for? Okay. And what's on that page? At the top of that page, Jim's is going to tell you how much has to be reserved for parent-family engagement. There is a reservation. Title I has a couple of reservations that are expected, and one is for parent and family engagement. 1% of the current year's allocation must be reserved if the district is getting $500,000 or more. The project will not allow submission if this has not been done accurately. Okay, so next year when you're writing the plan, if that hadn't been put in correctly, it's going to give an error message and it can't go any farther. Okay, it must be set aside for parent-family engagement. 90% of the 1% must be allocated to the schools. Why is that? Because the principals and people in the Title I schools are doing the parent-family engagement activities. So they need funding for that. So way down in the budget, we'll look at that this afternoon, is scripted. What kind of parent engagement activities is the school doing with their money? Okay, so you might see like annual Title I night. They might be serving food. Whatever that school is going to do that meets that parent-family engagement percentage is written in their plan. There is also a reservation for homeless funding. You're going to see that on that page that you're looking at. It's over on the right-hand side. It's a box on the right-hand side. Okay. Tomorrow, Burley Wright and Kim Humphrey will be here. They help with the McKinney-Vento funding. So they will come in and they will talk about what is reserved out of Title I for homeless students. What does that look like? You know, years ago, people used to park money right there when they didn't know what to do with it. That does not work, okay? This is for the homeless students in your district. You need to know how many there are and what do they need. Okay, and they tomorrow will talk about the allowability. So you're going to see that little box on your screen as well, where somebody has probably already figured out for you, this is how many homeless students we have, and this is what we need to be purchasing from the district level to service those children. Okay, so 2 reservations out of Title I. Okay, so then if you scroll down just a little bit farther on that LEA set-asides page, you're going to see other boxes down there. Okay, there are certain activities that can be funded out of the district's funds. Not everything can be funded out of the district. What you want to do when you get ready to write it is push most of the funding to the schools. Okay, they have needs. So you're going to try to push the majority of the funds out there. But if you want to keep some on the district level for like district level professional development, you're going to bring everybody from all of those served schools in. You can write that in that LEA set aside. You also have to keep in mind that if you're going to do PD for the whole district, you also have to ask the private schools if they want to participate. Teresa will be talking a good bit about private schools tomorrow as the ombudsman, but there in those set-asides are specific things like PD that can be put on the district level. There is something called supplement, not supplant, that you will have to learn about and keep in mind. The district level portion of Title I goes by what we call the old supplement, not supplant rule. That means, in layman's terms, very simply put, what you're doing has to come on top of what the district is supposed to already provide. Okay, so as silly as it sounds, You shouldn't be buying furniture that the district should already have in the classroom. And Title I shouldn't be picking that up. Title I shouldn't be picking up things that the district itself is responsible for, has to come on top of. Okay, now out in the school wise, they have a lot more flexibility. We don't go by that old guideline of the district has met its portion and now we're on top of, they can do other things and we'll talk about that, but you have to keep that in mind. There is a little box down there, it'll say like administrative, and then a box with a narrative in there explaining what's going on. Those same things are written down into the budget that I'll talk about this afternoon. It's kind of like you're given a justification for having things at the district level. Here's something I'm going to say new. Here we go. Denise and Audrey Brady and for the vets. Here's a new thing that I'm going to say. Sometimes, and I've seen this for some years, one of those boxes that you're looking at might say that your salary is totally coming out of Title I. It might read, and I encourage you to go look at it. What salaries are in that plan on the district level? Does it say 1.0 FTE, Federal Programs Director? Here, some clarity is needed. When it says a 1.0 coming from Title I only, and this holds to the old supplement, not supplant, you're doing Title I activities, period. Unless your district has a consolidated budget, admin budget, if it says 1.0, that means it's Title I stuff only. So if you do Title IV and you're totally paid out of Title I, careful. That's a red flag to the monitoring team. So we're looking carefully at that as these plans have already come in. You may have it come back with questions. Okay? So just know that. On our level, it works the same way. Let me explain. All of my program managers are reading Title I, II, IV, V, and Makisha and I will be reading N and D. We have a consolidated budget, so we can do that. Prior to that, it was separated. Who's reading Title I? Don't pay you there. Who's reading Title II? Don't pay you there. Okay, so that is something, especially for the vets that have been around a little while, to look into how the salaries are set up. Do they need a PARS? Okay, what documentation needs to be held if we're split funding something? So if that LEA set aside reads a 0.5, okay, what are the other duties? We need to be scripting what we're doing. That's something to really look at, salaries. Okay?
Okay,
Yeah.
can you explain to the room what a consolidated administrative funding application is? Because they might need to know.
And you said consolidated and then you said split funding. Those are different.
Yeah.
They kind of look the same, but they are different.
Yes, if you get into that plan, because most of the folks in here are brand new, I'm not going to overwhelm today, but if you're reading, I understand that some of you are so new, you've not even read the plan. I get it. If you're reading and you see salaries on the district level, which means the LEA set aside page, and you have questions about what kind of documentation do I need to be keeping? Is this set up right? Greg, will you raise your hand? Greg, he moved it. I can take questions about that, your program manager can take questions about that, and even the comm team can take questions about that, because they look at the backside. Whereas we're doing the front side, they do the backside. So any of us can help you as you get used to reading a plan. Yeah, the question is, if you're gonna do a consolidated budget for the 25 Title I grant, it should have already been done. Okay, because this was submitted July 1st. If that's something the district wants to look into later, you contact your program manager, and they, along with myself, will help you figure out how to set that. Okay? If the district is running like a pre-K program, you're gonna see that scripted in the LEA set asides. Okay? Like Richland One, for example, they run a pre-K program. They pay for that out of the district level funding. Okay? So what does that mean, like in practicality? Okay? That means that you're working with those funds, not the principals in the Title I school-wide school. Okay, so there are various things that you can see on that link. Some things that you should not see. So while you're reading, you should not see a bunch of technology being purchased at the district level. If the school needs computers, they need to handle that at school. Okay, they're on software license, as easy as it is for me on the district level to feel like I'll just take care of that. It needs to go out to the schools. They need to determine how many do they need, where is it coming from. All of that needs to go to the school-wide plan. So as you're reading that LEA page, you're looking at parent-family engagement, homeless, and then these other boxes that have other activities that whoever wrote the plan before you feels like is allowable to the grant, and they have already submitted it to us. We're in the process of reading everything. Okay, so it takes a little while for us to read it all and then send it back with questions that we have. Thus, it's so important that if you're the new Title I person, that your contact information is in there, because when we get ready to send it back with questions, it needs to come to you. Okay, so if you're not listed as the contact, make sure that you take care of that as soon as possible. Okay, there are more slides on what is okay to put in that LEA set aside. Okay, look at what is in red. Because the reservation of funds by an LEA will reduce the funds available to the schools, the LEA must consult with teachers, pupil services personnel where appropriate, principals, and parents of children in participating schools in determining, as part of the LEA plan, what the reservations are that are needed. So you're going to pull the stakeholders together. You're going to sit down at the table. We're going to talk about the needs as a district. What are the district needs that Title I can help support? Because these funds are going to be reserved by me at the district level. They're not going to make it to the schools. So we need to make sure everybody's on board with what we're going to house up here at the district level. Okay? All right, so what does it look like? You scroll down to the bottom of that LEA page, that LEA set-asides page. It's going to give you a total of how much money is being reserved at the district level. And then it will say what the amount is that's going to go out to the schools. Later, we will go to a different link where you will see that that number will then match the number on a link called the allocations to the served schools. That's how much the schools are going to get. So it's doing the calculation for it. Right, I'll give you a couple of minutes to talk about any questions that you have amongst yourself about what I've said thus far. And then I'll take some questions right before we go to lunch. I'll give you 3 or 4 minutes to chat. Okay, let's pull it back together. I'm going to kind of teach you gems as we go. Okay? If you are new to gems, do not hit the back button. It's not going to go back. Okay? If you might use Chris. If you want to back up from the page that you are in, you go to Raise your hand if you're with me. You found the go to. Okay, it's not the back button. Go to sections. Sections is your main screen for the grant that you're looking at. Raise your hand for me if you're on the sections page. I'm on the sections page. I need for you to be on the sections page. Okay. Takes a minute, don't it? Okay, now we're going to talk about that money going out to the schools. Go to the link that says school eligibility. Click on that. Jennifer, how is it that the person before me, figured out how much money was supposed to go to each of the schools? How is it that they figured out which school should be getting some funding? I'll lean into that for just a minute. All right, determining poverty rates. You're going to see there a whole lot of data, right? You're going to see all the schools in your district listed. And you're going to see in column D if they are servicing the schools or if they're not. It'll say school-wide or none or skipped. Then there's enrollment for the school. Then there's a poverty factor. And then on the other side, columns I and J gets into pupils in poverty numbers or methods. There are three kinds of, think of a better word to say it. Basically, you can choose, or the person that did it before you chose which kind of poverty factor the district was going to go with. So we really push for pupils in poverty to be used because here you see what all it encompasses. SNAP, TANF, Medicaid, all the things, okay? So all of that information is put into there, and that helps to determine how much money schools are going to give. That's like the first step, determining the poverty. Which schools receive it? An LEA must distribute its Title I Part A allocation among schools based on their counts of low-income students. A school is eligible to receive Title I funds if percentage of children from low-income families is at least 35%. The school's poverty rate is at least as high as the district's average poverty rate. And which schools should receive funding? Okay, you will see on that page, it will also list percentages. If the school's poverty is at least 75% listed there, they have to be served. Okay, 75 and above must be served. And the LEA can also decide maybe they want to serve based on grade span, things of that nature, but the thing to really keep in mind is that 75%. You've got to serve them if the poverty is at least 75%. Okay. What did I say? Not to hit the go back button. How are you going back? How are you going to get off that page? Go to sections. So ease out of that page. You're back on your sections page. It's like your cover sheet for the Title I plan. Okay, now click on the link that says allocations to the served schools. And I want you to just kind of study the page for a minute, and then I'm gonna talk about what you're seeing. Pay special attention to column F. Now you're on the page of the schools that are being served. It's called the allocations to the served schools. These are the schools that must be getting Title I money. They're the ones that have the needs assessments that the activities align to. Okay, and we're going to talk about what you see in column F. It says PPA. Okay, the district has discretion in determining the per pupil amount. Okay, so that amount is determined on the district level. It should not greatly vary. Okay, like if I see one school that's like $1,000 and then the next school down is like 400 and something, I'm gonna ask the question, like, why is there such a variation? Okay, it can also cascade down. So as the poverty is reducing, the PPA might be reducing. Okay, or the district might opt to give everybody the same amount. Okay, it's a district discretion. How much are they getting per pupil? Okay, so you can kind of look at the setup of that. That's where the calculation starts coming in to then say, Rhodes Elementary is going to get this amount. Okay, the system does that calculation for you. Schools must be served by rank order according to the eligibility page. Okay, so it can't break ranking. So what I mean by that is Rhodes Elementary and Gregory Elementary. If Rhodes is 80% and Gregory is 75%, hers should not be higher than mine. It has to be by rank order. Whose is the highest and down, or they get the same amount. Okay. This amount is determined by a formula that Jim's is doing for the person writing that. This is what it looks like. That's the eligibility page. Remember that poverty is the only factor on which a district may determine funding. In other words, an LEA may not allocate funds based on the instructional model, educational need, or any other non-poverty factor. And then we gave you a link to some guidance. Goes back to how do I know all the rules and regs? As things are placed in the PowerPoints, it gives you access to go out, pull it, read it for yourself. So what I'm saying makes sense. I'm hoping that I'm articulating in a way that it doesn't sound as much like Greek. That is my hope. The more that you do it, the more it will make sense. And there's the page that you're on. You will see how the percentages scale and how column F, this one is receiving all the same thing, I think. Oh no, it's cascading just a little bit at the bottom. Then it produces the allocation for the school, and then there's nothing left there at the bottom. That tells you how much those schools are getting. Okay, I'm gonna let you do this, and then we'll go to lunch. Talk about what are you concerned about? What do you feel good about? What do you still need clarity on? Or what have you learned new? Okay, just pick one bullet that suits you. We're gonna talk for 5 minutes.